Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So a few weeks ago, I made a video on the infamous transphobe Matt Walsh. If you didn't see the video that I did on Matt Walsh, he recently released a children's book titled Johnny the Walrus, in which he drew comparisons between children identifying as trans and children pretending to be walruses. The book, I mean, it was exactly what you could expect from somebody whose entire career has been based off of ridiculing trans people and spewing propaganda about how the left, specifically LGBT people, are indoctrinating your children and, persuading young people to transition or be gay. The book was full of false comparisons, such as Johnny literally being forced to transition into a walrus. Matt's own words, literally forced. And it even argues that young transgender kids, trans species kids, are being forced to have these surgeries at very young ages to affirm their gender, or in this case, affirm their species. Last week, Matt actually posted a response video to my video, which we will be watching today, don't worry. And he really comes in with those low blows. He does not hold back. I'm not even gonna pretend to be upset or, surprised by these low blows. It's Matt Walsh. I mean, come on. Hell, that's why most of his followers subscribe to him. The video of him bashing me has 5 times the amount of views that his channel typically gets and twice as many views as his video in which he debuted his book. So I mean, I get it. I understand. His audience loves me. Or rather, they love making fun of me, which I mean, I would argue is the same. No hard feelings, Maddie. I can take the heat, don't worry, I'm good. I just hope that little Maddie boy here can take what he dishes out. I post new videos twice a week here on my channel, so if you guys are not yet subscribed, go ahead and do so right now. I'll wait for you. Even if you came from Matt Walsh's videos, feel free to subscribe. Are you done? Thank you very much. And yeah, with no further ado, let's get right into hearing what little Maddie boy has to say about me. I'm so excited! The thing that bothered me most about Matt's video is he says that I don't have the arguments or I don't have the data or the science to back up my claims. Fair enough. The video that I posted was not supposed to be a dissertation on how Matt's propaganda book was incorrect. It was just supposed to be making fun of how badly written and, stupid the book was. But don't worry, Maddie. In today's video, I got all the data for you, so hold tight. I came prepared. When I react to people like this, that just keep spewing this BS over and over and over again, it's really important to me to just freshen up a bit, cleanse the air a bit, and, get it smelling all nice again. And that is where today's sponsor comes in handy. I've worked with Scentbird a few times now, but if you don't know, they are a subscription fragrance company. And for just $16 a month, you can choose from over 600 different brands and get super cute canisters like this filled with designer fragrances. Each of them has about a 30-day supply, but honestly, I would say way more because I don't think I've ever run out of one. They're not those knockoff scents that are, inspired by this fragrance or inspired by that scent. They carry top designer brands like Gucci, Prada, Versace, as well as indie labels like Confessions of a Rebel, The Harmonist, Vince Camuto. They're just in a cute little bottle so you can try out the scent before you commit to a $300 bottle of perfume. Trust me, you're saving a ton of money. It's super customizable so you can actually upgrade to get 2 or 3 fragrances a month, or you can skip a month with no penalties. They have a super simple quiz on their website to help you pick out the best fragrance for yourself. My favorite this month is from Eau de Juice. I don't really know how to say it. It's this one right here. To me, it smells super sweet and super warm, which is the kind of fragrance that I've been going for lately. A very candy-like smell, if you will. But I also got Good Habits Align perfume, as well as the very, very famous Gucci Bloom perfume. And here on the Samantha Lux channel, we don't like to discriminate, okay? We're not about that. They don't just have perfume for women. They have scents for men, for non-binary people. No matter who you are, you'll find something you like. Trust me. If you're interested in trying a perfume from one of the over 600 brands, make sure to use my coupon code for 55% off. That's just $7 for your first little thingy. Like, come on, come on. If you guys want to support me and support my channel, make sure to check out the link below. So yeah, thank you very much, Scentbird. Now let's get back into the video.
Today, we're going to be canceling Samantha Lux, who is a YouTuber and, quote, trans woman that is a biological male with a YouTube channel. Actually, a quite popular channel with well over 600,000 subscribers somehow. Sam has many videos promoting transgenderism and quite often responding to perceived instances of transphobia.
I love the quote-unquote trans woman. Like, no, you don't need to... Whatever, it's fine. Whatever, quote unquote, Matt. Notice how he's shortening my name to Sam, the more gender neutral version of my name, Samantha. It's Samantha Tubit. I'm just kidding, I really don't care, but is that the best you got, Matt? Tissin? Maddie? Maddie boy? Whatever, got me good, queen, go off. Quick little clarification, I do not promote transgenderism. Whatever that means. If you look at my content, it's actually mostly defending the trans community from trolls like you. Trolls that spread misinformation in an attempt to make the trans community seem predatory and dangerous and deranged and perverted. I'm just doing damage control because of like you.
One of the most recent videos on the channel targets, if you can believe it, none other than the leading LGBT children's author on the planet, yours truly. Sam stumbled across my children's book, Johnny the Walrus, and does not approve. Specifically, my video where I read the book to a group of children has provoked Sam's ire in a video titled, "Transphobes Are Writing Children's Books. Trans Girl Reacts." This is good. I am sincerely interested to hear how a trans girl, quote unquote, reacts to Johnny the Walrus. Perhaps this will be a point-by-point rebuttal. Perhaps evidence and science and logic and bulletproof moral arguments will all be marshaled. And by the end of the video, I will have completely changed my mind, realized the error in my ways, repented of my anti-trans beliefs. Maybe even because of this video that we'll watch together, I will become trans myself.
Spoiler alert, he doesn't actually come out as trans, and thank God. We do not need another transphobic trans YouTuber, okay? We got enough. If you're familiar with the content that I create here on my channel, if you're familiar with the arguments that conservatives love to make about trans people, you would be familiar with transphobes' claim that we are indoctrinating their children, that we're making their children gay, that we're forcing their young tomboy daughter to become a boy. That's not me. Who, me? Who, me? I would never. I love you, trans girl. I love your tomboy daughter. She is great. What I don't love is a hypocrite. Matt Walsh, if you are not familiar with, is like an infamous transphobe on YouTube. This posted a video 1 week ago reading his book, Johnny the Walrus, to a bunch of little kids.
Okay, so we're off to a rough start here already. A few points. First, I do not believe, Sam, that you are forcing any child to do anything or making any child do anything. I am accusing you and your fellow propagandists of trying to heavily influence children with falsehoods, distortion, lies, and other forms of insanity that they, the children, do not have the mental capacity to sort through.
Maddie, let's just go to the book's description on Amazon really quick, okay? Johnny is a little boy with a big imagination. One day, he pretends to be a big, scary dinosaur. The next day, he's a knight in shining armor or a playful puppy. But when the internet people find out Johnny likes to make believe, he's forced to make a decision between the little boy he is and the thing he pretends to be. And he's not allowed to change his mind. Those are your words. Is he forced or not forced? Come on, be consistent. Even if that was your argument, that we're persuading them with distortion and lies. What distortion? What lies? Like me talking about how transitioning saved my life? Is that the lie? Because it did. That's not a lie, sister. No, the distortion I assume you're referring to is that men can be women and women can be men, or whatever bullshit you want to be Ben Shapiro's cannot stop saying. I've never said that. Once again, you're lying. You're broadcasting straw man arguments to what? 500,000 people? I mean, maybe that wasn't your intention. I know I'm just so popular. I get you so many views, but you're broadcasting these straw man arguments to 500,000 people for what? Like, what's the point? This men can be women and women can be men argument is transphobes twisting our words to make us seem delusional. What we really say is that gender and sex are different, which by the way is the medical, scientific, and academic consensus. I have never claimed that I am the same as somebody that was born female. Ever. What I claim and what I've always claimed is that me living my life as a woman made me happier. I claim that it saved my life because it did. Why are you so mad about people doing what they need to do to survive? To protect biology? Babe, biology does not agree with you. I hate to break it to you. The biology that you're referring to clearly states that gender identity is not always the same as, the sex that somebody was born as. And here are my sources. Where are yours?
You can coerce and trick people into believing things, and when they're children, that's very easy to do, as you know from experience.
As you know from experience. What do you mean? Like what? I moved away from home at 18 in order to transition. My parents were not initially accepting of me being transgender. So I don't know, are you trying to say that my parents influenced me to be trans or something? Is that the experience that I have? Or are you implying that I'm experienced at tricking kids? Because again, that would be very misinformed considering less than 6% of my audience is under 18. You're the one out here doing story times for children. But honestly, I think you're just rambling. I don't think you've actually thought through your perspective. So we'll let it slide.
I appreciate being called infamous, and I won't take any issue with that label. But I am not an infamous transphobe because I'm not a transphobe at all. And when I say I'm not a transphobe, I'm not saying it to gain your approval or to convince you that I'm not bigoted. Yeah, I couldn't give it less of a damn if you think that I'm bigoted or not. I mean, it doesn't matter to me. I am instead concerned with definitions, and the definition of phobia is irrational fear. I'm not afraid of trans people. If I was, I wouldn't spend so much of my time saying things that I know will make you angry. My fear, and it is not irrational, is of the effect that trans propaganda has on society, and especially on kids.
I am not a transphobe. I'm not afraid of trans people. I'm concerned with definitions. I swear, the beard and the hairline must be fake. This is a 13-year-old. This cannot be a grown man. The only people that I've ever heard make this argument before are 10-year-olds. You're concerned with definitions, babe? Okay, let's look up some definitions, shall we? Transphobic, having or showing a dislike of or prejudice against transsexual or transgender people. So you don't dislike trans people? Could have fooled me. I feel bad for your audience. Honestly, I do. They're being manipulated by you for your monetary gain. Right over their heads. Like, would you argue that oil has an irrational fear of water because it's hydrophobic? No. He says that he's afraid of the effect that trans propaganda has on children and has on society. First of all, what effects? Suicidal kids finding a way to live happily? Is that what you're afraid of? Transitioning saves lives. And that's just a fact. While we're on Google, let's look up propaganda too, okay? Because I don't think he understands what that means. Propaganda. Information, especially of a biased or misleading nature, used to promote or publicize a particular political cause or point of view. How have I misled anybody? If you've seen any of my videos about my transition, especially my surgical transition, you'd know that I'm very upfront about it being dangerous, about the complications that I've had, you know, the journey that I've been through with it. And you'd also know that I think that surgical transition should be a last resort for people suffering from dysphoria, because it is a very, very serious decision. I am very clear that I think that everybody who is struggling with their gender identity, no matter what age they are, should talk to a professional and also follow the guidelines that are put in place to ensure they're making the decisions that are best for them. If anybody is misleading people, it's you, Maddie boy, okay? You're the one out here with your little children's book telling people that 7-year-olds are having surgeries and they're being forced to commit to transition even if they don't want to. Both of which are 1000% false. Like, that's just not true. Show me any data. Show me any evidence of that being true. Stop with this. The children, society. You obviously don't care about the health and well-being of children. Otherwise, you would support them doing what they need to do to be happy. Understand the comparison that's going to be happening here? He's like, this book is about a little boy who thinks he's a walrus and his mom, you know, also is convinced that he's a real walrus. Do you get the correlation? It's going to be about a little boy that thinks he's a girl or something and the mom is convinced that he's a real girl. How creative. How did you ever come up with such a creative, powerful analogy for children who don't understand what you're talking about?
Yeah, well, you're right. It's not creative. It's not creative at all. I mean, the comparison between somebody identifying as a different sex and someone identifying as an animal has been done 1,000,000 times. I'm not the first to do it. South Park did it a decade ago. But the problem is that nobody on your side has ever come up with anything approaching an effective response to the analogy. You've never been able to explain why it's wrong. All you can do, all you ever do, is just scoff that you've heard the point before. Well, we know you've heard it, and you're going to keep hearing it over and over again until you answer it.
Are you serious? I'm losing brain cells. I mean, fuck, let's talk about it, I guess. I'm going to make this as simple as possible for you, Maddie boy. First, let's clarify the difference between gender and sex. According to the World Health Organization, and many other sources as well, but let's just, use the World Health Organization. Gender refers to the characteristics of women, men, girls, and boys that are socially constructed. This includes norms, behaviors, and roles associated with being a woman, man, girl, or boy, as well as relationships with each other. Okay, you get that? Did you hear that? Gender is socially constructed. That is the consensus of the World Health Organization and many, many other communities. If you want to deny that, that's up to you, but I mean...
These are facts, and facts don't care about your feelings.
Facts don't care about your feelings. Sorry. Again, from the World Health Organization, sex refers to the biological characteristics that define humans as female or male. So very, very basically, because I know this is probably over your reading level, Matt, but sex is what parts you have, okay? So if you have a penis, if you have XY chromosomes, your sex is very, very likely male. Your gender or your gender identity are those norms, roles, and behaviors that you feel most comfortable or most natural with. For most people, their sex, which is, being male or female, aligns with their gender identity, being a man or a woman. But for trans people, for whatever reason, they don't line up. Transphobes like Maddie Boy rely on their audience's lack of understanding or lack of knowledge on the difference between gender and sex, and do their very, very best to conflate the two, even though, again, the consensus of the medical, academic, and scientific communities is that they are different. This is why transphobes' main argument is typically, what about basic biology? They're banking on you not understanding that basic biology defines your sex, not your gender. Now, being a human being versus being a walrus is not a difference that is socially constructed. I can't even believe I'm explaining this. Like I was saying, that difference is not socially constructed. Just like being born with male sex characteristics versus female sex characteristics, these are physical realities that are typically quite uncomplicated. Now, whether or not you can change your sex through hormones or through surgery is a different conversation, but for the sake of Matt's life, I can't even get through my sentence, sorry. For the sake of Matt's last brain cell, we'll save that conversation for a different video, okay?
Thing doing on the floor.
We don't have to worry about that. We're gonna read the book now.
This man has never met a kid in his whole life. Never interacted with one child. He's like, I don't give a sit down, we're gonna read the book. I'm here for half an hour and then I gotta go, so sit down so I can film, okay? Thank you, Brat.
No, I think the problem is that you've never been around a dad before, which maybe I would have already guessed. I'm around kids all the time because I have 4 of them. But I have by now developed a critical case of dad syndrome. And that means that I'm just snapping my fingers and I'm keeping people on task. That's what I do. I'm dad. You should see me during chore time every night in my house. You, get over there, pick up those shoes. You, come over, vacuum the rug. I don't even remember anybody's names anymore.
I don't even know my kids' names. Weird flex. He's so mad that I said he hasn't interacted with any child. Damn though, come in with the low blows, Matty boy. I must have really upset him. Pat on the back. By the way, not that it's any of your business or that you really care, but my dad, who is actually mostly conservative, is incredibly accepting of me being transgender and, you know, me being his daughter because he loves me and he wants me to be happy. I pray for the sake of your children, whose names you can't remember, that they're not trans or LGBT because I would personally hate to have a father who's more concerned with his false sense of biological reality than the happiness of their own children.
What's a bigot? Anybody know?
Kids are, I don't know how old these kids are. I'm not good at estimating age, but they don't know what you're talking about. You don't see their face? Did he run this past like an actual children's author and be like read it to a kid and see what they thought before he published it? I think he just went for it. Of course they don't know what a bigot is. They're 4. I mean, it does make sense that he would go for children because, you know, they have the same capacity for intellectual thought as him. Like, babe, if you're gonna write a children's book, write it for children. Write it using words that they understand and that they know and that you don't have to explain for them to understand what you're trying to say through your book.
First of all, don't call me babe. Second, did I run it by an actual children's author? Yes, I ran it by myself. And when myself came to myself and said, self, what do you think of this children's book idea? Myself responded, self, that's an exceptional idea. So I did get the go-ahead from an expert in the field of children's literature, if that matters to you. Now, Sam also says that some of these concepts are above a child's head. Yes, Sam, that's the point. Now you're getting it. If a silly story about a kid transitioning into a walrus is inevitably too weird and abstract for children, then what happens if we mix sex and gender into it? Does it suddenly become more appropriate for children? If a child, as you say, isn't even old enough to understand what a bigot is, or to hear the word, then is he old enough to be introduced to a concept like transgenderism? If he can't understand bigot, can he understand what it means for a boy to have a girl mystically trapped inside him? If my book is above his head, what about a choice that will fundamentally change his life and alter him physically and biologically forever? Is that above his head too? What do you think? Connect the dots, Sam. You can do it.
So sassy. Don't flatter yourself, babe. If you're gonna call me Sam and attempt to be disrespectful, then I'm gonna call you whatever I want, babe. Ew. He doesn't deserve to have a beautiful woman like me calling him babe. I never said that we should teach kids about the complexities of gender and sex, Matt. I don't think it's necessary to get into all that with kids. However, if a child comes to their parent and insists that they are really a boy or really a girl, I would recommend bringing them to a specialist, bringing them to a gender therapist, or someone that can professionally help them navigate those thoughts. I would not tell them to shut up because daddy knows best. I don't really think that's productive. Professionals, actual professionals, say that a child begins to have an innate sense of their gender identity between ages 3 and 5. You're probably gonna hate on gender therapists or something like that and say that they're, you know, persuading your children or whatever. That's not what happens with children therapists or therapists at all. I can tell you're not familiar with therapy, maybe you should get into it. But a therapist's job is literally to just help them navigate their own thoughts, not pressure them or persuade them in either direction. He says if a child is too young to understand or hear the word bigot, then do you think he's old enough to make a decision that will permanently change his life forever? What are you talking about? What decision is a child at 7 years old going to make that is going to permanently change his life? When children at this age transition, the only thing that they do is change their name, cut their hair, change their outfits, all of which are not permanent. I don't know if anybody told you this, but hair grows back. You can change your clothes again. Like, The very first medical intervention that will be allowed for a transgender child comes after they've already started puberty. And even then, it's only puberty blockers, which are completely reversible. Puberty blockers are used to temporarily delay the onset of puberty so that that child has a little bit more time to decide what's right with them alongside their medical professionals. This is super important for a lot of kids that are trans because going through a puberty that they do not identify with is excruciating. I know you don't understand this and I know that you don't agree, but I don't want a child to feel suicidal because they hate their body that much. I want them to feel comfortable and happy with their lives. And guess what? If they end up growing out of their dysphoria, like a lot of you like to argue will happen, which is not even true, they can stop the blockers and resume their puberty as normal. It's literally like nothing ever happened. Another little fun fact for you, puberty blockers have been used in non-transgender kids for a very, very long time. They were originally approved by the FDA in 1993 and given to kids who started puberty too early. Do you have a problem with them using puberty blockers too, or is it just the trans kids? Children are just not making these permanent decisions like you're saying they are. You're either wrong or you're straight up lying. And unfortunately, I'm gonna guess it's the latter.
The worms give you whiskers, the gray blends you in, the doctor says. And a simple procedure cuts feet into fins. The doctor wants to cut into Johnny and make him into a walrus. It's gross eating worms, Mom. They're all so dang twitchy. He doesn't want to eat worms.
Our children's... You see what he's doing here? With the analogies that he's drawing, he's arguing that parents are forcing their young children to take medications that they don't want to take, or to have surgeries that they don't want to take, or to transition when they don't want to transition. That's not what happens. You know, children have a say in the process. Children are allowed to make their own decision. Of course, with the help of medical professionals, of course. But like this whole part that Johnny's like, I don't want to eat worms. That would be the end of it. That's the end of it. Johnny doesn't want to eat worms. No worms for Johnny. No worms.
I will say we got exactly the reaction to the doctor page with the bone saw that I had in mind when we included that page, and I fought for that page. Now, there was, I will tell you a little bit behind the scenes, there was some discussion over here about that particular page with the doctor with the bone saw chasing the child, and I fought for that. I said, that's got to be in there, and it was. No, Sam, but see, you say children make their own decisions, but children can't make their own decisions. If I'm arguing that a certain course of action is harmful for a child, bad for them, damaging to them, it does no good to retort that the child wants to do it. Children who want to do harmful things should still be prevented from doing those things. Why? Because they're children. They don't understand what they're saying. They don't know what they want. And often they don't actually want what they think they want. At Red Robin the other day, my 5-year-old told me he wanted to order salmon for his dinner. Now, I knew damn well that that kid did not want salmon. He wanted chicken tenders and fries because that's what he always wants, and it's the only thing he'll ever actually eat at a restaurant. So I didn't let him have the meal that he wanted because I knew that he didn't really want it because he's a kid. And that's just for something as frivolous as a meal at Red Robin. What if your son says he wants to become a girl? Or a salmon, for that matter? Not only can you be sure that he doesn't really want that because he doesn't understand what he's saying, or what it means, or what the implications are, because he can't, because he's just a kid. But also, in this case, whereas it's at least possible to actually order salmon, it's not possible for him to actually become a girl, which is reason enough to not give him what he says he wants.
I'm not surprised that you fought for the bone saw page, Matt. Your entire brain revolves around framing the left, specifically trans people, as predatory and dangerous. What better way to do that than to lie and say that we're operating on 7-year-olds? You're so boring. Side note, Matt Walsh sounds like the worst kind of father. I really would hate for him to be my dad. Like, and that's not even just like because I'm like, man, he's being mean to me. Like, it sounds like a torturous existence. Like, nope, you can't try a new food at a restaurant because daddy knows best. You're just a stupid little kid. Why would you ever want fish? Riddle me this. Like, what's the worst thing that could happen if your kid ordered salmon and they didn't like it? You just send it back? They learn that they don't like salmon and, now they know? Sorry, little Maddie Jr., you don't get to try new foods because daddy doesn't want to go through the hassle of sending your meal back. He argues that a child should not be able to make a decision that will result in their harm. And I agree, fully I agree. There are some times when you need to step in as a parent and say that no, this is going to harm you. However, when transgender people transition, it does not harm them. In fact, and get this, Maddie, it actually dramatically improves their well-being. We conducted a systemic literature review of all peer-reviewed articles published in English between 1991 and 2017 that assessed the effect of gender transition on transgender well-being. We identified 55 studies that consist of primary research on this topic, of which 51 or 93% found that gender transition improves the overall well-being of transgender people, while 4 or 7% found mixed or no findings. We found no studies, none, between 1991 and 2017 that conclude that gender transition causes overall harm. Do you do any research? Do you ever look into the actual data or the facts? Or do you just hate trans people that much? Do you just hate trans people being happy that much that you have to lie to 500,000 people and say that transitioning hurts you? He says it's just not possible for my young son to become a girl. You and your semantic wordplay, it's so disingenuous, Matt. Obviously that child will have always been born male and cannot ever change that. Okay? I admit it. I've always admitted that. But they can transition into a role that will make them happy. Don't you want your kids to be happy, Maddie? What's the moral of the story? What's the lesson here? Aren't children's books supposed to have a lesson that's, clear? Because I don't know what this is trying to say. I don't know what this lesson here is. Maybe the lesson is don't listen to the creepy people in your phone. Don't trust medical professionals. Walruses are mean? Oh my goodness. Maybe take a writing class or something. Ask a kid, do you know what this book is about? Because none of them did. You could argue that this book is made for adults. Write a book for adults. Write a book for adults. Or is it that you have to dumb down these analogies and these arguments for children brain because they don't hold any weight in actual adult language? But yeah, that is it for this video. What do you guys think? You gonna go get Johnny the Walrus, the book?
Well, since you asked, what do I think? I think you should probably in the future have some kind of rebuttal if you're gonna make a rebuttal video. You rebutted my points in the same way that my dog rebuts the deer that he sees running through the backyard by just barking incoherently at them. Yeah, you're right that I did dumb down the arguments and analogies, but apparently I wasn't able to make them dumb enough for you to understand. My story about a kid pretending to be a walrus was, it would seem, slightly above your reading level. And that's a shame because it's a message that you might have really benefited from. And instead, I'm forced to say, finally, Samantha Lux, that you are, sadly, tragically, canceled.
Canceled? No, what am I gonna do that Matt Walsh canceled me? I don't give a fuck. He says, unfortunately, I couldn't dumb it down enough for you to understand it. No, I got it, Matt. I understood what you're trying to do. Don't worry. He says it's above my reading level, but I don't know, Matt. I think my reading level might be a little bit higher than yours, seeing how you can't understand the consensus of medical, academic, and scientific communities. Maybe you should try reading a couple children's books. I recommend this one. It could really provide an important lesson for you. We finally reached the end of that video. I'm curious if he's gonna respond to this, but honestly, I doubt he will because what can you say when, the facts don't agree with you? And after all, facts don't care about your feelings, right? But yeah, that was a lot of fun. Thank you so much, Maddie, for, providing that little entertainment for today. If you guys like this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up down below. Make sure to check out some of my other videos. Go check out my original Johnny the Walrus video where I supposedly bark. That seems a little fun. Make sure to subscribe if you're not already and you would like to be. And yeah, other than that, I think I'm going to go. So thank you all so much for watching and I will see you in the next video. Bye, everyone.